Weekends feel different. The clothes are different. The environment is different. The people around us are different. Even the mind, it feels different. At Mandir, it feels easier to remember who we are. We bow down. We do seva. We sit in sabha. We feel connected. We feel safe. We feel close to Maharaj. For a few hours, life feels clear. But then, Monday comes. School starts. Work starts. Assignments return. Deadlines return. Friends are around. Conversations change. Weekend plans come up. Questions come up. Pressure comes up. And slowly, without even realizing it, something inside us begins to adjust. The same person who felt strong on Sunday begins to feel unsure on Monday. We hide our niyams. We avoid explaining our values. We laugh at things we do not really agree with. We stay quiet when we should be clear. We make excuses. We change our tone. We change our behavior. We change the version of ourselves depending on who is in front of us. And then the question starts to bother us. Am I only a satsangi on the weekends? Why do I feel one way in Mandir and another way outside? Why am I confident in sabha but nervous in front of my friends? Why do I know what is right but still feel scared to stay no? Why does it feel like I'm living two lives? One life for Mandir, one life for school. One life with satsang friends, one life with outside friends. One life in front of santo, and one life when nobody is watching. And that gap can feel heavy. It can feel confusing. It can feel fake. It can make us wonder if we're even sincere. But listen carefully. Feeling pressure does not mean you're a hypocrite. Struggling does not mean you're a fake. Feeling pulled in two directions does not mean you do not love Maharaj. It means you're standing in the middle of a real battle. And this battle is what we want to focus on today. Today, we're not just asking how to be strong on the weekends. We're asking how to stop living two lives. How to say no without being weird. How to stand firm without being rude. How to be humble without becoming weak. How to carry satsang into every room we enter. Because the real test may not be whether we go to Mandir. The real test may be this. When we leave Mandir, does satsang come with us? Welcome to episode 3 of the Loyadham podcast, The Double Life.
Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwan ni jai, Shri Thakur Ji Maharaj ni jai, Shri Hari Krishna Maharaj ni jai, Shri Ghanshyamprakashdasji Maharaj ni jai, Shri Sadguru Dev ni jai, Shri Panso Paramhansa ni jai.
Welcome everyone, Jai Swaminarayan, to today's episode of the Loyadham podcast, The Inner Awakening. Today we're delving into a topic that a lot of us experience every single week, but we rarely talk about it openly. It's something that's usually kept inside of us, but today is the day to bring it out.
Yeah, so we're talking about the double life, the feeling we're on Sunday when we come into Mandir, we wear Mandir clothes, hang out with Mandir Bhaktu, listen to Kirtan Mukti Katha, and then the day ends, and the next day is the next week, Monday, when we feel like everything's washed away or we feel like a different person.
Yeah, and honestly, you feel like a bit fake at times. It could be like I'm a different person from Monday to Friday when I'm at school, and a different person from Saturday, Sunday when I'm at Mandir. And it's also at a point where I just take niyams for taking it, but not actually doing it. Like Adik Mas niyams, I could just take it. Santos ask, I give it, but don't really do it. I kind of question myself. I'm like only a satsangi for the sake of it in front of Mandir, in front of Santos, or am I like an actual satsangi?
And I feel you're not alone in this, because this internal tug of war you're being pulled at both ends of the spectrum basically, because Monday to Friday you're alone. You don't have the same environment that you had during the weekends, and then the weekends you're obviously a Mandir around Santo to everyone, right? So it's like you're being pulled on one side, you're being pulled on the other. And this is not only for you too. It applies to every single person listening to this podcast, because everyone has been through this phase or are going through this phase at one point in their lifetime, I guess. So it is true, because the door is inside the mandir. When you're inside, it's different. When you're outside, it's different. So today, this is definitely a topic that we want to focus on, obviously figure out some solutions as well.
Exactly, Swami. And the thing is, this whole topic, the whole goal of this episode is not to, judge that, we are pretending to be who we are, but we want to actually see who we are as a person, as a Haribhavan. Another thing is, kids nowadays, might feel after listening to this episode that I may be a hypocrite or a bad devotee, but that's not the goal. We're here to realize that if you charge your phone fully on Sunday and then Monday to Saturday you don't charge it, then it's gonna run out of batteries. Useless. Yeah, exactly. In the same way, Sunday apne padu kar le. Sunday we are fully, or Saturday, whenever satsang is, we fully are charged with satsang, and then Monday to Saturday it's kind of like a flat line. In this episode, we want to actually figure out how to maintain that battery charge throughout the whole week.
Right. It's a very nice rule, but yeah.
Swami, I feel like Saturday and Sunday is easy and safe in a way. At Mandir, everyone truly understands who we are and how we are. We follow our daily puja, do our daily niyams.
Yeah, but then I feel like at school or work for other people, it kind of completely changes. Like, I have friends making weekend plans, going places over breaks, and then I just become like an outsider where I have to go sit there, tell them why am I doing certain things, why am I following certain niyams or whatever, and it feels like I'm kind of like the outsider and they're just normal. Sometimes you kind of question what they think about you.
I think what you're speaking about is actually the mentality of every single kid today, or whoever is in their young ages, right? Because nobody wants to be an outsider. They all want to fit in. But see, this is where the real danger comes into play, especially for us as satsangs. Because it's now, what happens is when you act differently during the weekdays when you're alone, and you act differently on weekends when you're at Mandir or in source of satsang somehow, you're basically living a double life. Bhagwan obviously does not appreciate it. And I don't think anyone would appreciate someone living a double life, right? So that's where the danger comes into play. But it is definitely a problem we can solve.
I mean, Sonny, if fitting into a group requires you to drop your integrity, compromise your niyams that you learned, I mean, the santos that have put effort into you becoming a proper satsangi, if that's all going to wash away, then honestly, we have to ask ourselves as not a satsangi, but as a human being, that is it really worth it? Number one, you start losing your identity, who you are. Satsangi cho ke nahi it's prashna thai jai. After the school environment's effect, it's kind of like on Sunday or Saturday, it's kind of like, one side, as you said, double life. And then from Monday to Friday, your friends, you're completely different. So we have to think that the effort that's made by Santos, and nonetheless, is it all worth compromising just to fit in or be cool?
Yeah. But Swami, my thing is living a double life also something we can consider as Kusang? Usually we know Kusang as bad company, which is evil. But is this also something we can also kind of part as Kusang?
Of course it is, because definitely bad people and you engaging with them is Kusang in a way. Because Bhagwan Swami obviously in his Vato, there's 3 types of Kusang that we mentioned before as well.
Right.
You're saying that living a double life, is that Kusang? If you ask me, I definitely say it is. Because if you do something or you act in a way or you hang out with someone that makes you change your morals and your integrity and your actual identification, that's Kusang for you. And it doesn't always have to look bad from the outside. Because a gulab jamun, for example, it's so sweet. Everybody loves it, right? But you eat too much of it, what do you get? Diabetes. As opposed to that, karelo. It's karbu. Nobody likes to see it, even though they don't like the smell. Yes, but what if you eat that regularly, then you're less bound to get sick. Or it's basically a medicine, right, for you. So that's how it is. From the outside, it may look different, but how it affects you and your life is what identifies it as kusala or not.
I mean, the best way to spot it for bhaktos, especially in this episode, if someone has this, can I put it as disease, is to check after spending time with certain people, does my mind become weaker? Right. Check karo pada. My niyams, do they become, a burden on me? Before you used to do, 1,500 or 2,000 jobs, easy. But now it's like you can't even get to 500. You know what I'm saying? It's changed. Right. Change that you have to check that my double life that I don't feel is a burden is now becoming a burden in my religious life. For example, a fish, if you take it out of the water, I mean, you can put it in, ghee, which is $10 per pound. You can put it in any other liquid. It will not be able to sustain life. It will die. In the same way, if one is taken out of one's environment, main goes to environment, right? And people don't realize it. Environment, Mati, if you extract it and put somewhere else, how will you react? So the important part is, environment should be clean for your growth to excel.
And I think that's a beautiful way to put it, that a fish can only live in water and not ghee.
Yes.
Right? Even if the ghee looks so good and it's precious and everything, but a fish needs its water. In the same way, a satsangi, you can only identify them as someone who relates to satsang. At any point in the time in the day, I think we took this example in the last podcast as well, that during the day there's 24 hours, right? And your name is Salaj Bhagat. Now let's say your mother or your grandfather or anyone, they call you by the name Salaj. You answer at any point in the day because you know that's you. But if they call you Shriji Bhagat, would you answer at all? You wouldn't, because you identify yourself as Sahaj. So when we start identifying ourselves as a satsangi and we become that fish that can only live in water and nothing else, that's when the double life standard or the hypocrisy that we usually develop throughout the weekdays, exactly, becomes nullified and it goes away. That's a good point, sir.
So I think that's where the guilt comes in. Sometimes I know the right thing to do, but then I slip under pressure and then I start overthinking. Am I the hypocrite?
Okay, look, don't overthink it either. Because, see, being a hypocrite is different. Being a hypocrite is when you're actually intentionally trying to portray yourself as something that you're not. Meaning, look, I'm such a good satsangi. But deep down, it's like, I don't even care. As opposed to that, human weakness is different. Weakness is something where you want to walk on that path. That's correct. You want to be a good satsangi. You want to live that life with morals and everything. But you just slip. Sometimes when people are walking and they slip and fall, that happens, right? Even in sports, people are pitching or something and they fall and get injured. It's not intentional. So when it's not intentional and you actually want to do the right thing, it's a sign of human weakness rather than hypocrisy.
So feeling bad after you slip is actually showing you care?
Yeah, I mean, the discomfort is a sign of life. Don't feel like, I slipped or I dropped back, so then it's kind of like it's the end of the world. Sometimes, kids or even adults feel like that. But guilt is actually the best way or best form of U-turn to go back to bhagwan. And you can use that guilt to do that. And I'm reminded of, back in history class, Malcolm X. One of the greatest influencer in United States history. He was actually imprisoned for robbery. And he was put in jail. What he did inside, he turned that into discipline. He turned his whole life around. And due to that, he became one of the most influential person in history because of what he did even after getting falsely accused of robbery. In the same way, sometimes in our life, those highs and lows will come. It only becomes toxic when you make up or you want to hide away from someone. If you want to live a true life, then you should know as a satsangi, mistakes will happen, but I think the best way and the best solution is to become as open and keep going and keep taking those U-turns to go back to bhagwan, even if mistakes are made.
I think the hardest part for most of us, or especially me, it's kind of like saying no. When I'm given so many things, when I'm doing so many tasks to do, I just kind of accept it as an okay, I'll do it. I can relate with that.
Yeah.
but like I either have too much on me that I scramble to the last moment, or I either am not able to fulfill the time limit on time. So it's like, I want to know that like the hardest thing for me is basically saying no. So I want to know like how I can actually say it in a proper way. Just so
It's like you said, shooting butter. So, something for me, it's like you are outside, someone offers me something to eat, drink. I just say no, or it feels awkward saying no to them. It makes you feel like embarrassed in a way because they're eating pizza from outside. We also eat pizza, but we don't make it outside. We make it ourselves clean. And either it makes like, do I give them an excuse? Do I give them a whole lecture? How our mandir goes, how the niyams are, that way.
So there's not just one solution to this. You don't have to give them a lecture. First of all, don't do that. You don't want to do that. You need to clarify with humility. But another way you can go forward is just be smart about it. You know, there's kids today that go to school and on their Apple Watches or their smart watches, they have answers. They just scroll through like this. Teachers don't even notice that they write the answers down. And you're talking about cheating, exactly. You find a way to do that. Some kids, it's honestly, I don't know how the generation today is developing, but what they do is they have their exam paper in front of them. They'll take out their phone and through that phone, there'll be remote desktop to their laptop. That's at home. To see answers, to cheat on the test.
That's like light practice.
Exactly. So if you can get solutions to these things, or there's CCTV cameras, there's teachers walking up and down the classroom, to bachya my solution mari chahe. Meaning, if you're able to cheat where you're not supposed to, then I think you can find a way to slyly get out of the situation by giving them an answer. If they offer you pizza, it's be like, no, today my stomach hurts. This is just an example, right? You make up something like that.
I mean, in let's say spiritual terms, it's called Dradhata and Namrata. Dradhata is like inner firmness on, that these are my niyams and this is what I'm following. Like, I'm not going out of this boundary. And Namrata is humility. You don't want to say it in such a rude way. If someone like offers you something that you don't want to eat, or someone offers you something that, it's against your religion, then you don't be like, say it in a rude way. But yeah, say it firmly, but kindly. It's a balance. And I'm actually reminded of a bala, actually, about Loyadham Paribar, Raj Bhagat, New Jersey, Hardik Bhagat's son. He went to school one day and, he was sitting around the table with his friends at a lunch table, and, he had brought dar bhat, or he did standard lunch, and, other kids had brought their lunches, but they were meat. And what happened was, other kids were eating their lunches, and he just opened his dar bhat double. He had not started yet. And one of the kids next to him, his friends, he had trouble opening the water bottle, and he opened it. The caps are a little tight, and some of the water
Fell into his lunch.
Yeah, fell into his dar bhat. He closed it off, and he went home. And his mother opened up, his lunch box, and like, why haven't you eaten your dar bhat? Like, what's going on? Why, do you fast or something? He's like, no, the other, Steven kid was eating meat, and he opened his bottle, and some of those drops went into my dar bhat. So then, I didn't want to break any niyams. So he kept his dradhata, and he remained humble, but by not getting any kind of, uttar, or by not getting upset at that other boy who opened his bottle, and like, he didn't purposely do it, but he didn't give any retaliation. He just quietly closed it and then went off for the next task. So from these examples, I mean, he's, I think, 9 or 10.
Yeah.
From these examples, I think you guys can understand and relate that it's possible to do even by maintaining that coolness, I guess, in the Gen Z culture.
And it's the truth, Swami.
Yeah.
They're definitely, because today the generation is so smart in tricking people. I'm sure they can trick people in these situations as well. There's no peer pressure. Definitely there is involved. But if they want to trick their friends, they can do it easy.
It's easy. So, for me in school, many times people tell me, like, I tell them, oh, I don't eat onion garlic, I don't eat heat, anything. And then they start clowning me. They're like, oh, hell no, all that type of stuff. And they start making fun of, oh, that's not it, and stuff like that. And they make fun of you. and they start telling other people, and it starts moving on. And anytime I go into the cafeteria, someone tells me, "Oh, that's that guy like this, oh, he's a loser." Like, what do you say to that? And they keep asking why.
But here's the thing. It's good. It's practical. But that's what we're here for. And I'm sure a lot of bhaktas get these kinds of treatments in different ways. This is your situation. There might be someone with another. But one thing is, I want to ask you, why do you care what people think who are not even living with you for even an hour? You know what I'm saying? You're in a school period of 6 to 7 hours. You meet that person for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. You come and go. And then you go home. You don't think about that person.
Forget that person.
Yeah, you forget that person. You don't relate to him. They don't relate to you. Then as a satsangi, why do we always think about what this person or this person thinks of me? Instead, if they want, yeah, they can ridicule you. They can give you some words. But what is that going to change your niyams and dharams? Just be very firm in your mind. Okay, is this person giving me kalyan or akshardam? Will this person give me any kind of ekatik dharma? Will this person strengthen my...
How helpful is this he and I life?
Yeah, and besides that, Swami, Santo's making the effort on Saturdays or Sundays, keeping up my satsang.
Yeah.
You know, like maintaining that I don't get into kusam. Mahari chinta kare. If we think about that, even from there, we'll take the side of the Sant automatically and ignore those words. When we grab onto those words, that's only when we get disturbed. But when we let go, Muktanand Swami says that in Gunatitan Swanilat, Muktanand Swami says that he treats words as a part of the sky. He lets them go off. When we, a helium balloon, when you go in our Mandir, and there's birthdays, then, kids, we give them the helium balloons. Sometimes they let go of it and that alarm, sounds. But you have to let go of the balloon in order for it to go up in the same way. Don't hold on to words. Learn to let go of them so that outer environment will not affect your inner environment.
And, put it in this way, I believe it's in Guratin Surat or Goparan Sahibat. It says, Koi tamne mukt ke to tame mukt nati thai jeta. Koi tamne papi ke to tam papi nati thai jeta. Of course, everybody has their own opinions and their own way. And I understand. So this is all definitely a sort of knowledge tornado on you, but going to school and actually experiencing it is different. We understand that too, but what we're trying to do is we're trying to shield you.
So basically, we keep the firmness inside. What we know, what we're taught, we keep that firmness inside. But when we are made fun of or told by others from outside, we showed kindness towards them.
Exactly. Kindness, or actually put it in a way where just stop worrying about it. It's not gonna matter. It doesn't matter. And I'm pretty sure when you get scolded by your parents, which what happened, how often?
Happened a little.
It happens a little, right? So you feel like it's okay.
It becomes repetitive.
It becomes repetitive and you feel like, oh, it's a routine.
Yeah, I won't forget.
Yeah, it won't fight, right? Sometimes it happens. I mean, they're saying it for your own good. It shouldn't happen. I'm not influencing or saying that you should be like that. But I'm giving the example. Do the same with those guys. Why does it matter? It's a routine. Let them be. Let them call you a loser if they want to, but just know you're not a loser.
It's that mentality of fitting in. That's the main thing. That's what we want to do.
So, Swami, why do you think we hide our satsang side when we're outside of Mandir?
Because, we feel like we want to belong. It's like a desire to fit in, as we talked about before. And, we fear that we might be called too religious,
And we don't want to lose aura.
Yeah. Whatever that means. But more like critics, someone invites you to a movie, but they think twice. They're like, oh, he's too religious. It's too much. We fear that even if we get left out for just a little bit of our life, then it's kind of like we're the outsider. Yeah, exactly. But it's kind of like standing in a crowd and the crowd is going in one direction. You're in the middle and you want to go the other direction. That's hard to do. The flow of the crowd, there's 15, 20 people going this way. You're in the middle and you want to go that way. How do you get out of that? And the same way, fitting in is kind of like that. You have to remove that mentality that I want to fit in. I want to, be a part of this loop or, these friend circles. If they accept you, great. If they accept your standards, your niyams, your dharams, your religion, great. If they don't, still great. You haven't lost anything. You still have Maharaj. You still have Santos. You still have Loyadham. But sometimes we think that, if they don't accept me, then I have to compromise a little bit just so they accept me, but I have to let my other side loose. That's the problem. And what I think that any Hari Bhagat should do, which is very, very important, is not to ever judge or ever feel like I need to fit in. Yes, you should think about I need to fit in, but in Mandir, where do I stand out in Mandir? Where's my weaknesses in Mandir that are exposing me as a satsangi compared to the people who are not going to care about you, compared to people who are not going to ask you about your kalyan, compared to people who are, just going to, be cool in school for a couple of minutes or hours and then you're gone. I think one should look at Mandir environment and focus on that and then live a life socially outside.
And once you learn to recognize the value of what you actually have, this thing becomes really easy. Because think about it, you have a diamond in your pocket that's worth $1 million. If it, for example, just say $1 billion diamond in your pocket. And someone from the outside just comes in, let's say you're going to go buy a soft drink at some store, make a quick check, get a Mountain Dew or something, right? Baha Blast. I think that's what you like for right? Favorite check, your favorite. Okay. So let's say you have that diamond in your pocket, you're walking towards that quick check, and there's always sketchy people outside at night, outside that store. They come up to you and they go like, you look like a poor guy. You look like a bhikari. Okay, for example, let's say they say that to you. Would you accept their words as actually influential or not? No. Why? Because you have the diamond. You have the diamond in your, but they can't see that diamond. In the same way you have Satsang in your life. You have it, and that's the diamond, which those people do not see. So no matter what they say, it should not make a difference to us. If you start thinking about it in this way and start analyzing it in this matter, then your problems get solved easily. Now, another question you can also ask yourself is that when you're trying to fit in, you're actually showing people a version that's not the real you. Because in front of Santos, you're different. In front of them, you're different. So do you really want people to accept you for someone who you're not? And I doubt that would be the case because you can't live with that fake identity throughout, right?
One question, Asami, do they realize they have the diamond in the pocket?
Yes. Of course. Sure. Because if that realization comes in, all problems are solved. Exactly. That's a key root. Exactly. But you got to understand the value, what you have first of all. Tamne je prapti dai che, because attaining bhagwan is not something that's easy. There's more than thousands and thousands of people walking across or driving across these highways on these streets. But e logon sankalpa nathi tha to kya main mandir ma jaye darshan karo. Not enough credentials. Not enough. Kasud nahi. But Bhagwan himself accepted us. He held our hands and brought us in towards. Apre ka seva sadhan nathi kare. So how born into sa? You're born satim chandra nathi kare dana pana. We don't even do that much any tap tyag ura kasu nathi kare. But Bhagwan accepted us. Out of basically compassion, out of krupa. Correct. Our Sadgurus accepted us. Yeah. So if you think about that, and tamne su madyu che su prapti thai che, then you realize the value of that. Then once you realize that, biju baddu tamne born thai.
Yes. Good words.
So Swami, you talked about something that we are given something that other people, those outside people aren't given.
They don't even have. They don't have the thought about it.
They don't have the thought of it. Some people are born into it. Some people are later given to it, are brought into it. But how do we carry that Saturday, Sunday strength of Mandir, Satsang into our weekly life, social life?
Nice. Well, Shree, you need anchors. Just how in a ship, anchor is put, even if there's rough waves or any kind of ties, the ship stay. In the same way, Sant Samagam, reading, seva, Mandir seva, anything. Those are our anchors that keep us steady and rooted to Satsang. For example, I can definitely say, that Nan Swami is handling the Kishore Molo for our whole Sansa Mandir, and you, Bhaktos, are dedicated to a lot of technological, sevas, computer, AI seva, sound seva, and from there, even that seva flow is keeping you more towards Satsang. You got to think about it deep. Then from Husa is getting you far. So that's an anchor. That's what I'm saying. If you tie yourself up in Mandir Seva or even helping around the house, that's way better than, scrolling through your phone and, increasing your screen time and your TikTok and Instagram and Reels and everything. And like, even if we check out about those screen time, we can say definitely that this is a Hari Bhagat's fault compared to person in the outside world who has 7-8 hours.
I think it's the most relatable topic right now.
Of course, yeah. So anchors. Don't make your phone or laptop your anchor. Make Sansamagam, reading, Seva your anchor to stay rooted in Satsang. That's very important. What do you think, so?
Your question isn't wrong. It actually makes sense. Because if you think about it, it's like an exam. Yeah, throughout the year you study, you would go to classes, your teachers teach you stuff, you listen, you take notes, right? You even give quizzes. But that final exam at the end of the year, that's where your real test is put into play. If you don't cheat.
That's what counts.
If you cheat, then it's a different story. But if you don't cheat, then that's where you really find out whether you did good or not. So Saturday, Sunday, the baddu okay che. But what about throughout those 5 days? That's what you're asking, correct?
Correct.
So I think what you can do is, instead of taking very big steps, you can have these different small connections throughout your dailiness or throughout your daily, you would say, routine that will help you connect back to those Saturday and Sunday. It's small connections.
So what does that so small daily steps look like on a normal day?
Okay, so you mean like on a school day or
On a
something?
earlier day, if you're not in Mandir.
Okay, so first of all, what you can do is, I think at school you guys are allowed to use your phones,
Yeah,
right? So you have your phones, right?
for now.
For now, okay. Now, on your phone, keep a wallpaper of Maharaj and their Satgurus. When you take it out, you're reminded that, okay, I belong to them, not to the people around me. That's one way. And I don't know if you can put stuff on your desk, but when you get back home and you have your desk, keep a murti of Maharaj, keep murtis of Bhagwan and Santo and Sadgurus around you. So what happens is this constantly reminds you who you are. It's not a fixed routine. But what you can do is whatever applies to you, whatever brings you closer to Bhagwan. During lunchtime, some bhaktos, they put their AirPods in, so they don't have to listen to all the nuisance around them. They'll put their AirPods in and listen to while eating lunch. Yeah, while eating lunch. Those have one earbud and listen.
I know students that walk through the hallways and do job. Like on the phone?
Yeah.
Like you have the phone down and just do jobs.
And I think Art Bhagat, right? You talked about the last time where when he's driving to work, he's not at school, but when he's driving, that commute time, he listens to Katha. Katha, Vandupart, anything related to Satsang. So when you have these small connections into your life, they actually give you a big, you can say, picture at the end of the day. That looks good.
Yeah. That's a very great way to put it on.
So Sai, what you said is simple but powerful. But what are other techniques? Or what else can you tell me in this?
Sure. If you make a group of friends, close Mandir friends, 3 or 4 bhaktos, and you actually, not for gossip, usually when people start groups like that, it's for gossip or talking about worldly stuff. Besides that, this is just a spiritual group for positive support, and you do satsang goshti inside, it's going to be very effective. In the United States Army, there's a saying, there should be no man left behind. I believe in the Iran war that's going on currently right now, there's actually one fighter jet, first officer down, and then it was just one of them. And one of them got rescued, but the other one was stranded in the Iranian desert. And he went up to a high ridge area, and he was hiding. And all these Iranians were actually trying to look for him. And, the United States Army made a decision that we're not leaving this man behind. And they sent the best technology to find him. They found him, evacuated him, and brought him home, even at a very high cost. In the same way, we are those army bhaktos, we can say. Yeah, there's going to be a lot of, Maya coming in from any place or any flow. But if you have that tight satsang goshti group, where you can remind each other, oh, Mansi time, or, oh, did you do your Japniyam today? Don't forget to attend Zoom class, like that. Those small, reminders from other bhaktos, not your phone, but other bhaktos actually motivate you more to join or do that activity. So it's good to keep very close friends, just a small group, but remember, the magic rule is not to talk about anything else besides satsang motivational talks. And due to that, bhaktos actually get more, in from other bhaktos. And you can even say after you finish a name, oh, job's done. How about you? Kind of like reminding them, oh man, I gotta finish. And someone might say that or think that. But it's kind of like a conversation that's constantly flowing, which has reminders of your niyams and your standards so that you don't fall off, the satsang path. And that is the best way, I think, in this age, is to make that tight group of friends so that no bugger will be left behind.
Yes, I mean, that's actually a good thing to do. I feel like it's something that will actually help, because sometimes you feel like you're like the only one trying to stay on track, basically. But I feel like what you said, even if I forget sometimes, then at least if I see like another person or another bhagat's job reminder, then like I can actually be like, oh, I have to do my jobs and actually put in. That's actually good.
Right, and because feeling alone in this world, being a satsangi, is something that's bound to happen. But like what Swami said, you build that group of friends as satsangis, and what you can do is, see, you can look at it in this way as well, that instead of joking around with friends that are non-satsangis, it's a different sense if you joke around with satsangis, of course, right? And basically hanging around with those non-satsangis, you might as well hang out with satsangis more. Even if it has to, let's say, phase you out of, you can say, satsang talks for a little bit of time, definitely should not get out of hand. But even if you have to phase out of it for a little bit of time, what's the difference that it's going to make is that with those outside people, you'll be talking about stuff that wouldn't suit you as satsangs. And you guys have all probably experienced that when you're with outsiders, you talk about stuff that is completely out of hand, that santos cannot even hear or see, right? But when you're in that group, and let's say you're joking around even for some part of the time, it's still controlled to a certain measure. But again, not only, like Swami said, not only gossip, but it has to have that satsang element into it. So when you see that, okay, this bhagat posted his jobs, and I also got to do mine, right? But see, that only comes to you when you feel that guilt. Otherwise, if you become careless about it, like, okay, he posted every day.
Some bhaktas don't even open the group.
Right.
Don't participate.
Yes, exactly. At least I'm in there, but it's like ghost. Everybody's saying this one, I don't need it. It's like ghosting, right? Don't need to do that. If he posted his job, then you feel obliged to it, then you're on the right path. Otherwise, if you just go like, okay, he's posting his jobs, he does it every day, he's a good bhagat, I'm not, forget about it, end of story. Then that's not making the difference to you. So, see, the reals, I guess you can say, rahasya, is not in what steps you take, for rather what mentality you take those steps with. Yes. Because without the actual mentality and without the actual zeal to change yourself, no matter what you do, it's not going to make a difference at all. So I think, Swami, we discussed a lot of things that you guys also, I guess, applied to your lives and what brings practicality into your lives as satsangis. But at the end of each episode, as we usually do, we give them a little solution they can follow through. So I think from this and what we discussed today about not living that double life or the hypocrisy in your life, not having that, let's actually build some anchors, you can say, that everybody can follow around.
Correct. And, some of the anchors that I think practically that teenagers or young adults can take in their life, what I would say is, number one, we just talked about it, is building that tight satsang group, right? Bhaktos, yes, that's a very strong anchor to have. And each other, make them your influence, make them your motivation to keep niyams and keep up religious standards. And the second anchor I would prefer is pretty much sansama. And, joining the Zoom classes that Santos do every week, very important to stay connected with Santos. What do you think, so?
And I agree, because right now, when you first mentioned that satsang Goshti group, it did come to my mind, but right now it just came to mind. Guratira and Swami said, Be sara sadhu, tran sara haripal. Point. You wouldn't say that if there was no reason.
And Swami said,
Exactly.
Even in 100 years, no one will understand.
Exactly. And age vato mayuba lakisya Muktanand Swami Maharaj Kagad lake mukata. Maharaj used to write a letter that if you do not do Muktanand Swami Samagam, I think once in a specific time
in a year,
Varsh Dada ma Muktanand Swami no Samagam kase enu sarkure se.
And that's what they words, right? Yeah.
So Muktanand Swami no Samagam, Maharaj himself says to do it. Guratana Swami says ke be sara sadhu tran sara haribhagat sate het rakho. So at the end of the day, to surround yourself with that right environment and the right people, whenever you can, in any way possible, That's the only way to succeed. And it doesn't mean that it has to be physically. Because I think Saraswaka did mention that Mandir physically is on Saturdays. What do we do? Rest, right? Right. But you have your phones. There's groups in there. You can listen to Katha on your AirPods. You can relate in any way with.
And whatsoever, I think you mentioned make your internal mandir.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not about physicality, going physically to mandir, that only. Why don't you become mandir itself? You know, meaning your attitude, your character, your flow, your aura, as you mentioned. Why don't you turn all that so spiritual that the external environment in the form of the ocean or the fish, why don't we become that submarine? That's all I'm starting to say.
I guess, no, sorry. Go ahead.
And yeah, and besides that, it's something that's important because if you start to build a hard shell around you, that's the only way, in the form of samjan, that's the only way you'll be safe from the maya. Because I know kids that go to mandir on a weekly basis at a young age, but when they start to grow older and get into high school or college, that shell becomes weaker and weaker. And due to that, one day there is no shell. So the pressure of the ocean in the form of maya, or an analogy, crushes the submarine in the same way it crushes the Satsang.
It is true. As independence comes, then it blows them away. Of course, it's bound to happen. It's bound to happen to everyone, right? So all in all, guys, don't treat satsang as a costume that you're just wearing and then taking off. Rather, treat it as something that's your own integrity, your own identification, your own value. And once you do that, I feel this episode where you're not living that double life, where you're not being a hypocrite towards satsang, where you're not being very judgmental about what other people say into your lives, will make a difference into your lives.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining this episode. We look forward to meeting you in the next one.
Jai Swami.